Hello everyone and welcome back. I am Mr. Cobalt, and in this video we're going to talk about standard states and standard enthalpy changes. So when we're talking about enthalpy changes, it's good to remember that we're talking about a change in enthalpy or a change in heat or change in energy between products and reactants. And because we are talking about changes and not absolute amounts of energy or heat, or thermal energy, we can figure out, we can pretty much set the standard to be whatever we want. And so, we're going to talk about how that standard is set, and then later on we'll talk about how we can use these standard enthalpies of formation to solve problems. So, what is the standard enthalpy of formation? What is the standards that we're talking about? And so it comes into three basic parts to the standard. The first thing we want to talk about is the standard state, and that is defined differently for liquids, solids, and gases, as well as for solutions. So for a gas, the standard state of a gas is going to be that it is a pure gas, and that pure gas is going to be at 1 atmosphere of pressure. So that's the conditions for standard state. If it's not in this condition, then it's not going to be standard state for a gas. For liquid or solid, again, it must be pure substance, and in addition to that, it must be in its most stable form, and that whatever that stable form, that's going to be decided as the standard. So, for example, for carbon, the most stable form is graphite. So, graphite is the pure carbon in the graphite form is considered the most stable form. So, that's going to be the standard form of carbon. Also, under pressure of 1 atmosphere, and at a temperature of interest, usually that temperature of interest is 25 degrees, or what is typically considered room temperature. And for substances that are dissolved in solution, then the standard state is that the solution is 1 molar. So these are the standard conditions for standard states for liquids, solids, gases, and solutions. So the other thing to talk about is standard enthalpy change, and that's represented by a delta H, and the degree sign represents standard. So what is the standard enthalpy change? Standard enthalpy change is the change in enthalpy for any process when all the reactants and products are in their standard states. So if I have an equation or a chemical equation where the reactants and products are all in their standard states, then the enthalpy of change for that reaction is going to be considered the standard enthalpy change. Okay? And then finally, the standard enthalpy change of formation, and this is really important. You have to know this definition, and you have to be precise about this definition. So the standard enthalpy change, or standard enthalpy of formation, which is delta H with the degree sign F for formation. So this is standard enthalpy of formation. It's also known as the standard heat of formation. This is defined that for a pure compound, so for a pure compound, the standard enthalpy of formation is defined as the change in enthalpy when 1 mole of the compound is formed. So that's very specific. So if you have an equation that is forming 1 mole of a compound, right, and it's being formed from its constituent elements in their standard states, then that would be a formation reaction, or an equation for formation of the compound from its elemental states. And so when you have an equation like that, then the delta H, the heat of forming, or the heat of enthalpy, or the enthalpy of change in enthalpy of that reaction, is considered the standard enthalpy change, or the standard heat of formation of that reaction. But in order for it to be the standard enthalpy change of formation for a reaction, then this definition has to be in place. For a pure element, the standard state, the enthalpy change for an element in its standard state is 0. So that's defined, that's our standard. So any element that is in its standard state, the heat of formation of that element is always 0. Okay, so if we remember all this, we can use this to calculate the standard states of formation and heats of formation of different compounds and different elements. And we can use that also to figure out an unknown heat of reaction, and also using Hess's law as well. So this is going to be very important to keep in mind. I hope this was helpful, and if you like this video, share this video with your friends, hit the notification bell for notifications for other videos I'm going to put out, hit the subscribe button, put a comment in the comment section, let me know what you think, and if there's anything else I can go over in another video. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.